The sun was beginning its slow descent, casting long shadows across the naval base, where the young Navy SEAL stood rigid in her uniform. The crisp lines of her fatigues mirrored the discipline that had been drilled into her since the moment she first stepped into the military world. Her eyes scanned the perimeter carefully, every sense alert to the slightest disturbance. She had trained for this moment for years. Every grueling workout, every sleepless night spent learning tactics and strategies, leading up to this day when she would stand as a protector not just for her country but for those who could not protect themselves. Her name was Lieutenant Kara Jensen, one of the youngest women ever to qualify as a Navy SEAL. Her reputation was hard-earned and respected across her unit. The men and women who served beside her knew she was fierce and unyielding. Her record was flawless and her commitment absolute. So when the order came, it hit her like a shockwave, a command so strange and unexpected that it made her blood run cold. It was late afternoon when she was called to the entrance of the Restricted Operations Wing. The area was usually sealed off from most personnel, only accessible to those with the highest clearance, and today she was one of the few granted that privilege. The walls around her were steel gray and unforgiving, the kind of place where secrets lived in the shadows, and only the brave dared to tread. Kara stood there waiting for the officer who had summoned her. Her mind replayed the mission briefing she had just come from, images flashing of intelligence reports, maps, and codes. It was a delicate operation, one that required precision and absolute secrecy. Yet as the figure emerged from the hallway, she felt a strange chill in the air. The officer was a man of average height with an austere face that bore the marks of countless battles. His eyes were sharp, cold, and unreadable. His uniform was impeccable, and his demeanor radiated authority. The moment he opened his mouth to speak, Kara's heart skipped a beat. "Remove your uniform immediately." The command was blunt without a hint of explanation. Kara blinked, stunned, and took a step back. This could not be real. She was a Navy SEAL, for God's sake. How could anyone demand she strip her uniform here at this critical juncture in front of all these witnesses? "Sir, I am not authorized to comply with that order," she said, her voice steady but laced with disbelief. "I need to know the reason. This is not standard procedure, and I have clearance for this operation." The officer did not waver, his expression unchanging as he repeated the demand. "With all due respect, Lieutenant, remove your uniform now or face consequences that will affect your career permanently." The weight of his words hung in the air like a guillotine ready to fall. Kara felt the pressure mounting. Her mind raced, trying to make sense of the situation. Was this a test, an initiation, or worse, a trap? The other personnel in the corridor exchanged uneasy glances, whispering behind closed doors. Their curiosity was palpable, yet no one dared intervene. The tension was suffocating. She stood tall, refusing to let fear dictate her actions. Her fingers tightened around the strap of her utility belt as she searched for a way out of this predicament. There had to be a reason why this man was so insistent, but it eluded her grasp, like a shadow lurking just beyond sight. Suddenly, a voice crackled over the comms in her ear, a signal from her team. The operation was on the verge of commencement, and time was slipping away. Each second wasted here could compromise everything they had worked for. Her loyalty to her mission clashed violently with the strange demand that now threatened to unravel everything. Kara swallowed hard and took a slow breath, trying to steady the storm inside her. Her training kicked in, reminding her to stay calm, assess the situation, and act with precision. She stepped forward, her eyes never leaving the officer's face, and said in a firm tone, "Sir, I am willing to cooperate, but only with a valid explanation. Your order conflicts with my protocol, and I cannot act blindly." The officer's gaze intensified, as if weighing her resolve. The silence stretched long and heavy before he finally spoke again. But this time there was a hint of something else in his voice, a trace of hesitation or perhaps respect. He said, "You are stronger than I expected. Lieutenant, but you will understand soon enough before Kara could respond. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed down the hall, and heads turned as the commander of the base himself appeared. The commanding officer was a figure who inspired respect and commanded loyalty. His presence alone could change the tide of any situation. The murmurs that had filled the corridor ceased instantly as everyone waited to see what would happen next. The commander approached slowly and without a word. He removed his hat in a gesture of solemnity. His salute was deliberate and held a weight that settled over the crowd like a shroud of mystery. Kara watched intently, unsure of what was about to unfold, but sensing that this moment was far from ordinary. All eyes were on him as he stood upright, the lines of his uniform immaculate, yet his expression unreadable. Then, in a voice that carried authority and a hint of something deeper, he spoke. "Lieutenant Jensen, you have been selected for a task that requires more than just your skills. You will soon understand why your uniform must be removed and why this operation goes beyond any protocol you have known so far. But first you must trust that everything you have learned and endured has prepared you for what comes next." The room seemed to hold its breath waiting for the next words, but they never came. Instead, the commander lowered his head slightly and motioned for Kara to follow him down a corridor where secrets waited to be revealed. The air grew colder, the shadows deeper, and Kara felt a mixture of dread and determination surging within her. As she stepped forward, she knew this was the beginning of a journey that would test her limits, challenge her beliefs, and push her into a world where nothing was as it seemed. Her uniform may soon be gone, but her identity and resolve would remain unshaken in the face of whatever lay ahead. And just as the door closed behind her, the corridor lights flickered for a moment, leaving those left behind wondering what fate awaited the brave SEAL who dared to stand her ground against an order no one understood. The corridor was dimly lit, the soft hum of the fluorescent lights above, casting long, flickering shadows on the cold metal walls. Lieutenant Kara Jensen followed the commander with a mixture of wariness and determination. Her mind raced with questions that refused to settle. The weight of the moment pressed down on her like the crushing depths of the ocean she had trained to conquer. Her heart beat steadily, but beneath it a storm of uncertainty churned relentlessly. The commander moved with deliberate purpose, each step echoing softly against the sterile floor. His face was stoic, but Kara sensed a hidden urgency beneath the calm exterior. It was as if he carried a burden far heavier than the insignia on his uniform suggested. As they walked deeper into the restricted area, the air grew cooler and the atmosphere thickened with secrets waiting to be uncovered. After a few minutes, they reached a large, reinforced door emblazoned with the insignia of naval intelligence. The commander stopped, paused, and then turned to face Kara. His piercing eyes locked onto hers as he finally spoke in a low voice. "Lieutenant, this is where your mission truly begins. What you are about to see will challenge everything you know about loyalty, service, and sacrifice. The uniform you wear is a symbol, but the mission you are chosen for goes beyond symbols. It demands a shedding of layers, both literal and figurative. You must be ready to face truths that few have the strength to confront." Kara swallowed hard, her breath catching in her throat. The idea of removing her uniform had already shaken her, but this new revelation suggested something far deeper was at stake. What kind of operation could require such drastic measures? What secrets were buried behind this door? The commander reached into his pocket and pulled out a small encrypted tablet, handing it to her with steady hands. "This contains information you are not cleared for yet, but it is vital for your understanding. Study it carefully and be prepared to act without hesitation. Once inside, there is no turning back." Kara took the device, her fingers trembling slightly as she activated the screen. The encrypted files began to unlock, revealing layers of intelligence reports, surveillance footage, and coded messages. The data pointed to a covert operation within the ranks, a threat so insidious it had to be contained at any cost. The realization struck her like a tidal wave that the enemy might not be outside the base, but hiding within. The commander nodded as if reading her thoughts. Yes, there is a mole, an insider compromising missions and putting lives at risk. Your assignment is to identify the source and neutralize the threat. But to do so, you must blend in beyond the uniform, go undercover in a way no one has done before. The removal of your uniform is symbolic of shedding your official identity to become something else, something invisible. Kara's mind spun trying. To absorb the enormity of the task ahead, she was trained for combat, for stealth, for survival. But this was different. This was a game of shadows, deception, and trust, where one wrong move could mean death or disgrace. The stakes were higher than ever, and she was the only one who could navigate the treacherous waters ahead. Before she could respond, the commander turned and pressed a hidden panel on the wall. The reinforced door hissed open, revealing a narrow passage lined with electronic locks and security cameras. The path beyond was labyrinthine, leading to a secret wing of the base known only to a handful of top officials. The air smelled faintly of ozone and old machinery, a place forgotten by most, but alive with the pulse of covert operations. Kara stepped inside, her senses heightened to every sound, every flicker of light. She felt as though she had crossed a threshold into a new reality where rules were rewritten and allegiances tested. The commander's voice broke through her thoughts. You will be assigned a new identity, a cover story, and access to classified resources. Use them wisely. Trust no one except those I designate. And remember, your mission is paramount. Failure is not an option. He handed her a card with a single name on it, a code name that would become her new persona for the duration of the operation. Kara studied the name, committing it to memory. The transformation was more than physical. It was psychological, a rebirth into a world where appearances deceived and truth was elusive. As they continued down the passage, Kara's fingers brushed against a concealed panel, revealing a small cache of civilian clothing and equipment designed to erase her official identity. She picked out a simple black jacket, a pair of jeans, and a hat pulled low to shield her face. It felt strange shedding the uniform that had defined her for so long, but necessary if she was to become the ghost they needed her to be. The commander led her to a small room, equipped with communication devices, monitors, and weapons storage. Here she would receive briefings, updates, and coordinate her moves. The walls were lined with screens displaying feeds from around the base and beyond. A digital map highlighted zones of interest, red dots flickering where suspicious activity had been detected. Kara took a deep breath and settled into the chair in front of the main console. Her fingers danced over the controls, pulling up files, analyzing patterns, and searching for anomalies. Every piece of information was a puzzle piece in the grand design of this covert operation. She was becoming the hunter and the hunted, simultaneously navigating a web of lies and half-truth. Hours passed as Kara immersed herself in the data. Every revelation seemed to deepen the mystery. The mole was clever, ruthless, and deeply embedded. Their influence spread like a virus, threatening to corrupt the entire command structure. The question gnawed at her: who could be trusted, and who was the enemy, wearing a familiar face? Suddenly, an alert flashed on the screen, a breach detected in one of the secure communication channels. The message was scrambled, but unmistakably hostile. The mole was making a move, and time was running out. Kara's pulse quickened. She glanced up to find the commander watching her intently. "They know you are here," he said calmly, but with steel in his voice. "You must act now, or risk losing everything." Kara nodded, gripping the edge of the console. Her mind sharpened by adrenaline, she prepared to dive into the dangerous game that awaited her. The uniform was gone, the shield stripped away, but beneath it lay a warrior ready to face whatever darkness lay ahead. The path was uncertain, perilous, and full of deception, but she would not falter. Not now, not ever. As the door sealed shut behind them, the lights dimmed further, casting the room into near darkness. The suspense hung heavy, like a storm about to break. Kara Jensen was no longer just a Navy SEAL. She was an operative in a battle where the greatest enemy was hidden in plain sight, and every step forward could be the last. The night had deepened. Beyond the edges of the naval base where Lieutenant Kara Jensen now operated under a new identity, like a shadow moving silently through corridors that seemed to twist and turn into endless mazes. Her eyes adjusted to the dim lights casting eerie glows on metal surfaces. The mission pressed heavily on her mind like an invisible weight she could neither shake nor ignore. Every breath she took was measured, every movement calculated, as if the slightest mistake could ignite a deadly chain reaction inside. The small command room, the glow of the screens flickered, showing streams of encrypted data and live camera feeds from around the base. Kara leaned forward, studying the patterns, anomalies, and behaviors that might expose the traitor lurking within. Their movements were hidden behind layers of deception and cunning, but she was determined to unmask them. Piece by piece, she gathered clues, sifting through lies and half-truths, searching for a fragment that would unravel the conspiracy. Her fingers danced over the keyboard, pulling up personnel records, cross-referencing access logs, and intercepted communications. Every detail was a thread weaving a web that might lead to the mole. The deeper she delved, the more complex the picture became. The enemy was not a single person, but a network of influence poisoning the command from within, a silent rot threatening to collapse everything they had built. Suddenly, a flicker on one of the monitors caught her attention, a shadow moving in a restricted sector during hours when no authorized personnel should be present. Kara's heart quickened as she zoomed in on the footage. The figure was swift, careful, cloaked in darkness, but there was something familiar in the way they moved. A hesitation, a pattern of steps that only someone trained would notice. Her instincts screamed. This was a critical lead. The commander's voice crackled through the secure channel, cutting through the silence. "You found something, Kara. Tell me what you see." Kara described the movements, the timestamps, and the irregularities in the security footage. The commander responded with a grave tone. "This could be our window to expose the mole. But be cautious. They are watching and waiting for any slip." The realization that the enemy was actively tracking her heightened the danger. She was no longer just analyzing data, but being hunted. A cold shiver ran down her spine as she planned her next move. The risk was immense, but the potential reward was greater than anything she had faced before. She decided to set a trap using the information gathered to bait the mole into revealing themselves. Kara created a false communication channel filled with misleading data designed to lure the traitor into a controlled environment. Every detail was crafted to appear authentic yet subtle enough to avoid suspicion. She coordinated with trusted members of the base who remained loyal under deep cover, waiting to act when the moment came. As the hours ticked by, Kara remained vigilant, monitoring every response, every signal. The tension in the room was palpable as the digital web tightened around their target. Then suddenly, an encrypted message appeared on her screen, a brief code that matched the false channel she had planted. It was the bait taking the hook. She relayed the information to the commander, who authorized an immediate sweep of the restricted area Kara prepared to move, knowing that the confrontation was inevitable. Her mind raced with scenarios of what lay ahead. The mole could be armed, dangerous, and desperate. The outcome uncertain. Steeling herself, She moved swiftly through the corridors, accompanied by a small team of operatives. Each step brought them closer to the truth and the danger that lurked. Behind it, they communicated in whispers, their eyes scanning every shadow, every corner. Their training was their shield, but even that could not prepare them fully for the betrayal that awaited. As they rounded the final bend, a figure darted into view, a fleeting glimpse of a familiar face before disappearing into a service hatch. Kara's pulse surged. She recognized the person. It was someone she had trusted, a fellow officer whose loyalty had never been questioned. This revelation shattered the fragile trust she had left and deepened the mystery. Why would this person risk everything to betray them? The team moved in pursuit, but the mole was quick and cunning, slipping through narrow passageways designed to confuse and trap intruders. Kara's voice cut through the comms. "Stay on target. Do not lose sight." They chased through the labyrinthine corridors, a deadly game of cat and mouse where every wrong turn could lead to disaster. The sound of footsteps echoed around them, mingling. With the soft hum of machinery, the mole's movements were deliberate, calculated like a predator testing its prey. Suddenly, the chase ended at a locked door sealed tight and guarded by an automated security system. Kara assessed the situation quickly. Access was restricted and time was running out. She issued orders for the team to secure the perimeter while she attempted to bypass the lock using the skills she had honed over years of training. Her fingers flew over the keypad, heart pounding with urgency. The lock clicked open, revealing a small room filled with communication equipment and stacks of classified files. The mole was inside, but nowhere in sight. Kara's breath caught as she stepped cautiously forward. The room was a nest of secrets, a hub for the betrayal that threatened to tear the base apart. Suddenly, the lights flickered and a voice came through the speakers, calm, cold, and mocking. "You're closer than you think, Kara. But this game is far from over." The message was a chilling reminder that the mole was still one step ahead and watching her cover was blown, but the fight was far from finished. Every move she made now was under scrutiny, and any mistake could be fatal. Kara steadied herself and reached for her radio to call for backup. But before she could speak, the door slammed shut behind her, locking her inside. The trap had turned, and she was caught alone with the enemy closing in. The room seemed to shrink around her, the walls closing in as the suspense tightened like a noose. Her mind raced, searching for a way out. Every option weighed against time and risk. The uniform was gone, the shield stripped away, but her resolve burned brighter than ever. She was a warrior forged in the fires of adversity, and now faced her greatest challenge yet. The silent battle for truth, loyalty, and survival was about to reach a dangerous climax, and only one would emerge victorious.